Alright, so we've got some news, and it's some bad news, go figure. And it's about EA, go figure. It's recently surfaced that EA has now cancelled their open world Star Wars project that was in development at their Vancouver location. The story broke on Kotaku, and I really hate doing this because I have numerous gripes with mainstream gaming media, but it's a quality story, so I'll link it down in the description. Anyways, the basic rundown of events dates as far back as 2013, when EA acquired exclusive rights to the Star Wars franchise. When that happened, fans were dismayed because EA, not quite as bad as they are now, were already widely disliked, however. A lot of Star Wars fans lamented the fact that this could very easily mean less Star Wars games, and worse Star Wars games at that, and they were, unfortunately, very correct. Flash forward to the launch of Star Wars Battlefront, the original, and it was mediocre at best. Not much more really need be said. It was a lukewarm game that did not inspire applause at all. The game was not a disaster, but it certainly was not what Star Wars fans truly wanted, and in the end was sort of glossed over and forgotten. Things get quiet, and years later, EA announces their next Star Wars game, the sequel to Battlefront, Battlefront 2. Keep in mind, this is only their second game since acquiring the license, over a multi-year period, and the Battlefront pair remain the only two Star Wars games that they have produced or will produce for quite some time. Most of you are likely familiar with the Battlefront 2 fiasco. EA decided that meshing loot boxes with core gameplay progression would be a good idea and created one of the most incendiary reactions I have ever seen in gaming. Their stock price tanked, their public opinion got dumpstered, the game got castrated, the government got involved and began regulating loot boxes in their entirety. It was a giant, unmitigated disaster because EA just really couldn't help themselves. To be fair, they had been executing the loot box strategy for many years in their sports franchises, but how or why they thought it would be a good transition into Star Wars, into the main gameplay loop, it's beyond me. So Battlefront 2 comes under fire. The gaming community sounds the alarm and grabs their torches and pitchforks. What does this do? Well, Big Daddy Disney steps in and smacks EA with that Mickey dick, because Disney, the controlling interest behind the Star Wars IP, does not want the franchise's public opinion flushed away by relatively small yet extremely invasive monetization decisions pushed forward exclusively by EA. The next part has a bit of speculation, but it tracks pretty well. I would assert that Disney placed restrictions on EA and dictated stricter guidelines on how the Star Wars IP should be utilized moving forward, perhaps significantly relating to monetization or loot boxes, but with the end goal of preventing further damage to the brand appeal. Disney does not earn a 100% share of revenue produced by both Star Wars games or EA, so EA pushing these types of systems was unacceptable even if Disney did profit slightly in the short term. Right about the same time as Star Wars Battlefront 2, which, to be fair, has improved significantly in the aftermath of the controversy, just wanted to mention that, EA then shut down Visceral Games, a studio working on a single-player, story-driven Star Wars game that legitimately had a lot of fans very, very excited. EA has long held the opinion, among other greedy publishers, that single-player games are outdated and that their focus should be pushed towards the games as a service model and online-only, multiplayer-focused titles. With the new methodology, it's likely more profitable, otherwise they would not pursue it at all, but it is also less appealing to a large subset of players, and specifically to Star Wars fans. As Visceral closed down, control of the proposed Star Wars game's development transitioned to EA Vancouver, where the framework also shifted drastically. Instead of a single-player, story-driven arc, it would take the form of a game as a service. Go figure, with an open-world setting allowing for a better sandbox in which to push that type of persistent structure. The loose subject matter was to be a bounty hunter protagonist, exploring various open-world planets and interacting with various factions and races in the Star Wars universe. In my eyes, actually pretty cool. Well, jump forward yet again to today, and that has been cancelled. The open-world Star Wars bounty hunter game is no more, and instead the focus has been shifted to a much smaller project that will be ready for its release far sooner. The open-world planetary bounty hunter exploration game was too ambitious in the eyes of EA. It would require too much work and too much development time, so they cancelled it. Perhaps not indefinitely, but it is no longer on the horizon for quite some time. The points outlined in Kotaku reference a target release date for this new unknown Star Wars project of early 2020, right around the time that next-generation consoles are meant to make a debut, and all this has me thinking of a game that launched when PlayStation 4's first came out, called The Order 1866. The game was beautiful, undoubtedly, but the campaign was 6 to 7 hours for a $60 title. The purpose of Order 1866 was simply to showcase what the new console generation could do. They made it as beautiful as possible and sold it right around the time where there were little to no options available for the new machines. So people bought it, marveled at how gorgeous the graphics were, and then realized it was 6 hours long, with cutscenes running for almost a third of that time. It was essentially halfway between a technical showcase and a ripoff. The new Star Wars project, I won't even really call it a game, that has been made exclusively to hit a certain time frame and not because it has a superior concept or story, is an indication that EA has once again put shareholder timetables and fiscal interest far above the experience of their players. That's kind of normal though. Not only that, but it demonstrated a clear usage of the Star Wars universe simply as a disposable prop instead of the award-winning IP that it is. This image right here comes courtesy of Jedi Spectre 117. If it is from a different initial source, I apologize. I was not able to trace its lineage any further back than that. It shows the number of Star Wars games over 2 4-year spans, 2002 to 2006 under LucasArts and other companies, and then 2013 to 2017 under exclusively EA. From 2002 to 2006, 16 games were released. Some good, some bad, but some terrific. And from 2013 to 2017, 1 mediocre game and 1 total disaster. That again has admittedly improved, but the damage has already been done, and it's clear that under EA, the Star Wars IP in its entirety is suffering very badly. There is a lot of speculation going around as to why EA has chosen this path. Some claim that after the sanctions placed on them by Disney, this is a power move to strike back and assert control. Others claim that Disney is making a play to develop Star Wars titles themselves, and EA is now going to merely sit on the rights until this threat passes. Personally, I do not have access to the contract specifics, but I would speculate it is a combination of many different factors. With the recent track record of EA, what do they really have to lean on? They may be in more of a desperate situation than we all realize. Their sports games are still going strong, yes, but slight modifications, annualized and sold again and again and again, with layers upon layers of microtransactions and loot boxes. Players are waking up to that. The FIFA community is experiencing more unrest than ever before, and aside from Anthem, launching in just a couple of weeks, but meeting a brick wall of skepticism from the community, what do they really have? The decision to close a single-player focused studio and repurpose a single-player Star Wars game into a games-as-a-service abomination is profit-driven, as always, but the decision to then cancel that project, partially through development, simply because they require a smaller, cheaper, and quicker alternative, it reeks of desperation. I've talked about this concept very many times now, but 2019 seems to be the year everything crumbles for AAA publishers. With Anthem, EA has already been forced to retrace ground and roll back their monetization to cosmetic only, with no loot boxes. Now there is rampant speculation that the exact same way Fallout 76 and Bethesda are doing it, or the Division game did, or Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and Activision have done, that EA will simply add in the pay-to-win or the loot boxes in a month or two after the launch. Maybe, maybe not, we'll have to wait and see. But regardless, it seems like they have been forced already to adjust their practices, and 2019 will be a year in which they are kicked back into line even further. If Disney really did come down hard on them with the monetization restrictions aimed at protecting the integrity of their prized cash cow Star Wars, EA could be caught between a rock and a hard place, with one of their only current projects, aside from yearly release reskins and Anthem, being a game that they cannot monetize properly or to the degree that they wish they could. Regardless of specifics, it's clear that Disney needs to reassess the situation regarding ownership and development rights for Star Wars. The iconic universe is ripe with potential, and EA is not only squandering that potential, they are doing damage to its reputation. I would expect Disney is already well aware of this and working on solutions, because in the right hands, with the right studios and the right amount of creative freedom, the Star Wars concept could be used to manufacture a plethora of amazing titles that reap massive rewards for years to come. But that really cannot happen under EA. Anyways, that's all there really is to say about it. Hopefully we can see a resurgence in single-player games and a further degradation of control at a AAA publisher level, leading to increased game diversity and a rise for independent studios. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. We have new esports merchandise as well for those that want to rep upper echelon with jackets, hoodies, jerseys, etc., each with their own custom name, gamertag, and number, whatever you feel like adding there. We also have a Facebook group, Discord server, and our own gaming forums linked below, so check those out if you have any interest. I will be trying out Twitch streaming once again with the launch of Division 2 specifically, so if streams is your thing, feel free to follow over there, but I'll stop rambling and cut it right there. As always, thank you for watching, and have a nice night.